I quickly, since this is a small group, there's no need to kind of do like a virtual hand raise. Folks are welcome to unmute slash mute themselves. I'm going to share my window pane just to make sure everyone kind of understands, because I know WebEx is different than every other platform. So the mute button's like right here. You can see that it's filling up with the green, with that oval. So feel free to unmute yourselves if I understand it's 7 o'clock and people are trying to snack on or trying to get like an early dinner. So feel free to turn off your video. And as we go through, maybe let's say, David, you have something you want to share, like your notes or something like that. I can easily give you the presenter role, and the share screen button is here. So that's kind of more or less how this platform works. So I'm going to start sharing. I'm going to share the agenda right now with everybody. Um, I know we did a lot of discussion already, but I kind of want to get to know you guys a little bit. So I know that I've engaged with all of you guys, but in some ways maybe I haven't. So if it's easier, I would like to kind of maybe initiate, and then I'll call out someone in the small group to kind of give like a brief synopsis. I think this is a wonderful group. I really look forward to what recommendations this group can provide. Um, the supervisor actually was planning on attending but had a conflict, so he will be giving some remarks later this evening before the meeting ends. But I guess to get started, if everyone hasn't known me, my name is Jose Del Cid. I'm a staff aide and supervisor Walter Alcorn's office. I primarily handle land use. So Jan and Robin know that I'm, assisting with the review of the rest and comprehensive plan, um, and helping that go through some of the task force discussion process. And I really love Reston. I mean, from my background, my undergrad was in architecture, and my master's was in urban planning. So I feel like I'm in a perfect space, and I really love the engagement so far in the community. So I would like to pass it on to the next person, and I kind of want to pass it on to Gary Smith. I haven't met you, but I hope to learn more about you, and yeah, let's go from there.
Hey, um, thank you for calling on me. I'm completely unprepared and flabbergasted. And I love Reston. We've lived here in Cloudcroft since 1988. We didn't worry too much about where we were going to live. We knew Reston was a good place. Uh, Tended to only live here 3 years, and now we've been here ever since. So it's a good place. My purpose for being here is to support everybody who's come before. Certainly Robin and Dave and everybody else, really interested in the area back that we're talking about. Um, my wish is that it remain as much wooded as is possible, while still respecting the walking needs of those around. There's a school near us. There's residents who want to walk through the woods. At the same time, I'm concerned with some of the drainage issues and the access issues for cars that come in. And I've been doing my own little homemade smooth out the grass after the tires have come through, and and made it plowed a big area through that there. So and I want to see more of the area wooded. I'd like to see. I don't really want to see. It's not up to me, but I really would like not to see a paved path, um, unless it's really, really well thought out, and a lot of, uh, just to preserve the quietness, because it's literally in our backyard. Until now, it's been a very, very quiet area, and we're hoping to keep it that way. So that's me.
All righty. I see that Andy Siegel has joined us. Andy, we're just doing brief introductions. Did you want to introduce yourself, or did you want us to get back to you?
I'm happy to do that. Thank you so much for having me here. Andy Siegel. I'm representing Dogwood Elementary School. I'm a part-time community liaison over at Dogwood. So we have a lot of wonderful neighborhoods around our elementary school that we would love to make safer and more amenable to walking to school. Obviously, traffic safety is huge part of that. As I think about the Pinecrest, cluster, I see Robin there and just walking. And we even did a test run the other week about walking there in some of our fun streets, I guess, pathways to nowhere. And how do we make this connect so it's safe and it kind of encourages people to walk or bike to school. We want to look at that. I'm excited that I was after I was on the last Reston Comprehensive Plan Update Committee when I was the vice president of the Reston Association back in the day. And then I chaired the Reston Network Advisory Group that was the follow-on to that. So I've talked a lot to the Fairfax County Department of Transportation, and I look forward to getting back involved with this. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Andy. Kim has a virtual hand. Kim, did you have a question or a comment? Or did you want to give an introduction?
Yeah, since this is my first time joining the group, I don't have as much information as all of you who've been meeting. Looking forward to being a part of it. And I'm not sure which hat I'm wearing, so I'm Kim Shower. I actually had kids, just my youngest just left Dogwood a couple of years ago. So I have many hats on. I'm not sure which one I'm going to be wearing, but I used to work for the Park Authority, ran a community outreach campaign to change behaviors using social marketing. So I think that's originally why Robin invited me to be a part of it. But I'm also a tree steward and a master naturalist, and have gotten grants to do to improve the watershed. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to fit into the group, but I'm really looking forward to supporting the goals of the group, and I think it's very admirable. So I appreciate being a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Robin, did you want to give a brief introduction to the group?
Oh, sure. So a little bit about me. I moved to Pinecrest recently, but I've lived in Reston a couple of years now. And let's see, my graduate degree is in social entrepreneurship. So I, trying to utilize those skills to improve our community. And I'm just so glad, we could all get together and do this. And because having moved to Pinecrest recently, but also have lived in, nearby areas, I've lived in Fairfax County my whole life. I just know we can do better in this area. And there's so many opportunities here that I'm so excited to talk with you all more about what can be done.
Thank you, Robin. Jan, I know you gave an introduction early on, but would you like to give another one?
Currently chair of the Southgate Community Center Advisory Council, which is right in that neck of the woods. I live really close to there. I'm also on the Reston Task Force, and I'm also on the Reston Task Force Transportation Committee and Connectivity, Transportation and Connectivity Committee. And so I'm very keenly interested in this group and how we go from here and how we can improve the intersection for the kids to be safe and somehow get all those cars away from there. Maybe even expand some paths. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jan. Karen, just trying to, I know I'm not going alphabetical, but.
No, because you would have had me already.
I know I would have. I know you're the first one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Anton. I am the now the president of Reston Association and the Hunters Woods Dogwood District Director on the board. And Larry Butler, our COO, and I met with Robin and Dave and Shamali and Jose sometime last year to discuss the wishes and concerns over at Pinecrest Glade. So I'm really happy that this group has evolved out of the residents' concerns, and looking forward to being a part of it to see what we can do.
Thank you, Karen. Officer Harita.
Good evening. I'm Officer Harita. I am your current Reston Community Liaison Officer. I was a former traffic analyst for the police department and for Fairfax County. And for Reston Station, I bring over a lot of traffic safety efforts. So traffic safety campaigns like the one you see, the billboard I'm trying to point to it behind my head for Just Drive, that's for Distracted Driving Awareness Month, which is April. So I plan a lot of the traffic safety campaigns, put out a lot of the public safety announcements in relation to traffic safety, and then of course offer the consults for the different communities, neighborhoods, businesses, in schools in relation to any traffic issues that they might be having or they want to work with troubleshooting with. So thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you, Officer Harita. Warren, unless you're trying to get to your other device.
So, good evening. I was not able to, apparently, I'm not authorized to forward this meeting invitation to a different email address. So, for today, you will not be able to see my, my glorious mane, which I have not tamed since the start of COVID lockdown. So, you know, I'm waiting for my second vaccine so that I can get a haircut, I guess. In any case, I basically just expressed an interest in this issue, and I got an invite, and I'm not sure now which one of the esteemed panelists here actually suggested that I join this. But I'm happy that I did. I live in Stratton Woods. If you know where that is, basically, you know, it abuts actually that path. So there is actually, you know, now I guess it's just roughing it, but people can walk through that and then enter from the back our community. So we actually do the same thing, except, you know, in reverse, we go out as a family, we will hike, or we try once biking, but that's not really possible right now, through that area. So we take an interest in what's happening because it's like right behind our neighborhood. And just, I know that maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but one of the main reasons why I'm really interested in that particular right-of-way and what's happening with that corridor is because, you know, in the long-term plans by Fairfax County, they're already proposing building an underpass under the toll road that would establish a direct connection between the town center and the south side of Reston. It would come out just on the north side of USGS, and Pinecrest would essentially serve as an extension of that, right? So then that traffic would make its way to Glade, and then what, right? So right now, what would happen is all those cars would go right past my house. They do already. A lot of people cut through our neighborhood when they're trying to get from Fairfax County to Reston Parkway, Fairfax County Parkway to Reston Parkway, and it makes it, you know, brings it all home, right? Because that path is of interest to us in general. It's also a right-of-way that may end up being utilized by the county as both a path for bicycles and possibly for cars. So I would like to learn more about what's happening, and if there's anything that I can contribute to the discussion, I would like to do that. In terms of my qualifications, I don't know how well they really fit here. I'm an economist, and I work for the Department of Energy. I primarily look at production and consumption figures, so I'm not really the guy that will, you know, slice and dice traffic patterns. I look at a bigger picture, but hopefully there's a for me on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Okay, I know I went out of order, so I think I know where I'm at. David. I know you kind of gave a brief introduction earlier too.
Sure, I'm a board member on Pinecrest Cluster. I've lived in Pinecrest since 1989. Grew up in Fairfax. My first time in Reston was in 1971, so I'm familiar with it. My main interest, I mean, I'm really interested in these topics. I love the idea of getting the neighborhoods more connected, and I think walking and biking paths are a great way to do that, especially with the new metro stop opening up, getting a good connection from there, allowing us to have trail access also west or south of here towards Fox Mill would be excellent. But even more important to me is getting the community connected to other organizations to help define, recognize, and solve various issues. And I've never really known how to do that. It's not my strength. So I really appreciate somebody like Robin helping us get connected to a group like yours. So
No, thank you, David. Richard Cabellos, and I know he's on his phone, so if he's
I'm okay. I just parked. I'm about to get my son some Chipotle after soccer practice.
sounds yum.
I know, right? So thank you for having me, Richard Cabellos. I am a longtime resident of the Hunter Mill district. But I grew up in Vienna. I did move out of the county, but I still work for the county. I've been with Fairfax County for about 14 years. And just for the last 11 years, I've been working with the Department of Neighborhood and Community Services, which is a human service organization with the county that runs the Southgate Community Center. And I've been at the Southgate Community Center for a little over 10 years. And I guess my experience with what's going on is, Southgate is right off of Pinecrest Road. And just been a witness to a lot of issues with Pinecrest. Of course, we run pre-COVID. We had almost 100 kids on a daily basis using the center. As you all know, Southgate Community Center is in between two huge apartment complexes, townhouses, and single-family homes. So we get a little bit of all of Reston, of all the great things Reston has to offer. But unfortunately, where we're at, Pinecrest Road, and I know this is the Pinecrest Road Glade Task Force Committee, but if you some of the issues even extend all the way down Pinecrest to South Lakes Drive, where prior to COVID, we had a lot of issues with hit and runs on South Lakes Drive. Where there's no crossable, like a median for the kids to walk safely from from Reston Glen to Southgate, or even at the ends of the street. I know Robin made a great impact on me, because that whole little tucked away little parking lot at the end of Pinecrest, it's such not just a blight to the community, but also a safety hazard. And I'm happy to be a part of this team, because from the families that have come to complain about the issues, not just speeding on Pinecrest, but just there's not even a sidewalk on the Reston Glen side to the bus stop, or even a crosswalk from Reston Glen to Southgate. Like I said, we've gotten to a point where we've actually had to pick up kids in our center bus at Dogwood, because the parents were afraid for their kids crossing the street, just literally from their apartment to Southgate. So prior to COVID, I know Officer Harita's on this call. She's witnessed us do at least 4 to 5 shuttle trips to pick up kids from Dogwood to bring them safely to Southgate, because of Pinecrest, the issues with Pinecrest. So I'm truly happy and willing to help in any way I can. I know there's a lot of experts on this panel, so I'm not going to be the one to tell you the expert. I can only explain to you what families have ask me to help them with, and or experiences that I've seen personally with speeders and just the bus routes, and just a lack of understanding of a really good traffic pattern there on Pinecrest. Like I said, but it's not just Glade and Pinecrest. I think it's all the way towards the end of Pinecrest at South Lakes Drive. So I am happy to be a part of this conversation, and thank you, Jose, for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you, Richard. Um, so we have two more. We had someone join us, but Shamley Health, do you want to go next? I know you're part of the office, but.
Sure. I'm Shamley Health, and I handle multimodal transportation, public safety, the arts for the office, for the 100 Mile District office. But I'm also a resident of South Reston, so I live not too far from your community, just on the other side of Reston Parkway. So, and I've lived here for over 6 years. So really happy to see a group coming together to take a look at something that has been a long time kind of eyesore and problematic issue, and see, what it is that you envision for the area, and hear what, the surrounding communities and organizations that access and use that area would like to see happening there, and what we can do to make it better. And hopefully out of that, out of this springs some desire to even do other improvements around the community, but kind of starting with one focus and working on the project and moving forward. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have. Thanks.
All right, and our last attendee is actually Supervisor Alcorn. Did you want to introduce yourself? Unless you don't want to, it's totally fine.
No, I can do that, but thank you, Jose. Yeah, I joined a little bit late. Sorry, I was on a Northern Virginia Transportation Authority committee call that ran over into the new hour. I did join when David was speaking, so I heard David and Richard. But want to thank everybody for getting together, for doing this. You have my complete attention, and thank you, Shamley and Jose, for helping make this happen. So anyway, look forward to hearing more and learning more and seeing the group's recommendations.
Thank you, Supervisor. So with that, we're actually going to segue to the next part of our agenda today. So I'm just going to share my content again. So we kind of wanted to just, I know we sent out stuff and trying to set a date. I know it's challenging with schedules, but I'm happy we're here for this first meeting. So the next item on our agenda is to actually kind of look up the overview and scope. So I think most of the group has actually kind of looked at this document. And ideally, the charge or kind of the purpose is to provide recommendations to the Hunter Mills Supervisor's Office for Pinecrest and the Glade pullout that multiple people on this working group task force have kind of called out as blight or an eyesore, as well as the Pinecrest right-of-way that I think Warren, Robin, and David with our walk a couple months ago that Karen and Larry attended mentioned as well. There's no road there currently, but it is a dedicated right-of-way for road. But I think it would be helpful to kind of understand what the community wants, since it's right in the, it acts as the spine between two other communities, with Pinecrest on one side and Stratton Woods on the other. So ideally, later on, I kind of want to ask the group what the frequency of the meetings are, but ideally, and this could be kind of like a working target to kind of provide recommendations on alternatives by sometime this year. It could be right before the August break. I know folks, it's hard to convene meetings during the summer, especially with the pandemic. I think some in this group might want to have some summer plans. And then with that, me and Shamley in the office are here to support you guys in any way and provide information if additional information is required. So below is just a small working list of folks that you guys are on that are part of this group, and if we add one or two folks between now and the next meeting, that's totally fine. I think we can get everyone up to speed with the recording, but also David with taking his excellent notes. I think folks have seen this graphic, and I think just to orient folks, Southgate Community Center is right over here. And then this is the pullout that we were kind of talking about. Dogwood is off the page to the top left. And then if you go down Glade, you get back down to Reston Parkway. And you know, the pullout, I mean, the right of way that we were actually talking about is actually where the pullout starts, and it kind of wraps itself all the way around, uh, like I said, Pinecrest and Stratton Woods into, I think this is a business park campus. Robin, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, this kind of extends forward, and in between, what we've learned over the summer, I think last year, was that you know, RA owns some of these parcels. You know, some of it is owned by VDOT and so forth. And then, you know, Pinecrest, you know, maintains some of their common space, as well as, you know, the Stratton Woods HOA. So ultimately, you know, I would want to leave it up to the group on how they want to provide the recommendations. It's really up to you guys, but just to consider alternatives for the pullout and the right of way, and it could be in some version of you know, uh, graphics, visual. Sometimes, you know, there's images that ideal, you know, as far as like programming or a combination of written recommendations. And yeah, you know, we'd be happy to see what you guys come up with. I'm actually excited for this group because I think that there's so much that could be envisioned for this part of Reston. It has its unique character. I think it's one thing that the community should embrace. So I kind of want to leave it at that, and I kind of want to get initial thoughts from the group. And again, there's no order. Feel free to unmute yourself or ask any clarifying questions. I'm happy to try to provide any direction that I can. I know I don't have all the answers, but I'm happy to start the conversation.
Sure. Well, I guess I will jump in here and go first. So I live in Pinecrest, like I mentioned, and the Pinecrest right-of-way section, I'll start with that, has a couple of unique problems. So the first of which is that it is a paper road right now, but it's not an actual road. However, cars will continue to drive up past where the pavement ends by the Reston Business Campus, and they'll drive down that area and go mudding. And it's happened so frequently, I've gotten pictures of at least 5 cars. But you know, they drive away as you approach. I can't get the license plate, I can't report it to the police, and it's, you know, a common concern. And as some of our participants mentioned, this area is used for recreation. There's a private school on the business campus. They do their daily walks there. A lot of people in the surrounding communities, even farther than Stratton Woods and Pinecrest, come to walk in that area. And just because it is so, it's forested, it's quiet, it's really nice. It's an important, I guess, animal pathway. There's fox, deer that travel through there. So just ecologically speaking, it's a really sad thing to see what the recreational use of cars have done to that area. And there's, I think, a conservation area very close by in Stratton Woods, the Stratton Woods Pond, too. So that's one concern about that area. And also, I'm sorry, lost my train of thought there. There is a trail that's currently planned through Active Fairfax, and Dave and I participated in the Active Fairfax planning process. We had a meeting with them, which was really interesting. But there has been a trail plan there, I think, since the trail plans were published initially, which was quite a few years ago, but it's never been funded. So I think the key to all of these projects will be the funding aspect, is my 2 cents. Because it's one thing to have a plan, it's another thing to have a funded plan. So that I will be interested in hearing more about. And as far as the Pinecrest Glade intersection, I think everyone said it very well. My goal and my recommendation is to reserve safe passage for pedestrians and bicyclists in that area. It's really unsafe. The visibility is impossible. You know, everyone's already said it, but definitely a redesign is needed of that area. But as far as the sense of the big picture, as another participant mentioned, with cars and multi-use and what the vision is for the future, from what I've read of the Fairfax County's initiatives, it's really trying to empower people to use multi-use transportation. So I think it would be really sad if the area just became just another road, because I know that Fairfax County has a big plan for the roadways in the futures, and this Pinecrest right-of-way is not on it as a road. So as far as the land use goes, I'd like to see it changed from a road to something that will, you know, bring us into the urban forested future. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Robin. I see a virtual thumbs up and some claps from the group. I know Jan included, so she has actually a virtual hand up. Jan, did you want to go next? You're
I've been
unmuted.
muted. Can you unmute me?
No, you're good now. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Hi. This may be oversimplification that it may have been done already, but what about a crosswalk and a speed bump on either side of a crosswalk between Southgate Community Center and, you know, Pinecrest over to the other area near Dogwood? Just have a crosswalk. Normally people have to stop for kids in this crosswalk. So why can't we just put a crosswalk over there, and maybe when you get to the beginning of Pinecrest, could put a speed bump, and when either end, you know, when either end comes, you put speed bumps there.
If I may, there's actually an underpass below Pinecrest that begins right outside of the community center and goes right underneath. So, you know, in theory at least, there is a safe passage to go underneath Pinecrest. Now, of course, it's not ideal because we really shouldn't be seeing cars going 40 miles an hour on a 25-mile-per-hour road. But, you know, at least in theory, there is a solution that is already in place. But this is actually where I would actually also, you know, maybe name Officer Corrida in person, because she has actually been to our Stratton Woods meetings also. And one of the things that I had brought up at our meetings, and something that actually also comes up occasionally on Nextdoor, is the fact that many of these trails on our side, especially of Reston Parkway, but even on the other side of Reston Parkway, are quite unsafe. And I can tell you that from personal experience, because as I mentioned, you know, we as a family bike a lot, and we actually would rather bike along Glade, where cars go 40 miles an hour, than we would bike on those trails and through those underpasses, because we don't feel safe. And they're not monitored well, and there are in fact crimes that happen along those paths. So I'm not surprised that parents don't want their children crossing Pinecrest through those underpasses. Right. And because I'm an adult male, and even by myself, I would rather not bike through those underpasses.
Thank you, Warren. Any other comments or questions from the group? Oh, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you just said, I know that the underpass at Colts Neck over by Hunters Woods Village Center was just updated with some public art, and there was talk, one, that we would probably, or we should see some reduction in some of the problems that you described based upon the public art being there, less graffiti, people being more proud of their neighborhood. And when Ann Delaney was head of IPAR, whatever we're calling it now, she said that our underpass over under Pinecrest by Southgate Community Center was on the list as the next underpass that she was looking at doing. So
Yes.
again, if Officer Harita would let us know, have we seen less crime and other things on the Colts Neck underpass based upon the public art? We were pretty excited about the possibility of now having that public art on the Pinecrest underpass, and I have no idea what the status is of that, but we were told at one point that we would be the next underpass to be looked at.
And I don't have specific numbers on the amount of crime or disorderly behavior there, but I do believe, and this is just me talking and listening to what the calls are coming out, that we haven't not had any significant amount of destruction or graffiti in relation to that tunnel.
Right.
A lot of you were there for the unveiling of that new tunnel, and you saw how proud the community was of it. So I would always say projects like that are meant to uplift the community can never hurt, because it does instill that pride in both the youth and the adults. You know, it covers an area with something that's positive and something that's ownership for everybody in Reston and the Southgate area. So projects like that, I don't think can ever hurt when they're community oriented and community based like that. So like I said, I don't recall offhand hearing about any significant damage, disorderly behavior, or anything under that tunnel like that. Now, that being said, Hunter's Woods will always be a challenging area. Well, we don't hope will always be, but it has been a challenging area. And this is what we're continuously working toward. We're communities working toward continuous improvement. That's something we're going to have to do. But every little effort, such as that art project, helps us. And it helps garner that support from people who have lived in Reston and Southgate and Hunters Woods for 20 plus years, and for our newcomers, and for those who might not be staying long at all and might just be passing through. But like I said, I'd hope to see that project like that move over to the Southgate area. I think that would be great.
Can I ask Jose that we take an action as a committee to go find out from Public Art Reston how real, how close in, is that a decade away? Is it a couple years away? Where's the planning process for the Pinecrest underpass in terms of that public art?
Andy, me and Shamley would be happy to reach out to PAR. Actually, oh, Karen, you had your hand.
Well, no, I'm happy to take that on too, Jose, because as RA president, I attend their meetings. I just attended the first one about a week ago. And there wasn't anything specific mentioned about the Pinecrest underpass, but I know there's a desire to get ultimately all of them, all of them done. So I'm happy to research that piece.
I'm just happy that Karen said there's nothing specific yet until her next meeting about specifically Pinecrest.
Yeah,
Way to go,
well,
Karen.
I know there are more planned, and I will nail it down with them to see, you know, to confirm, as you said, Andy, that Pinecrest is next on the list. So.
Jan, you have a new hand. I don't know if you
I
wanted
do have a new hand. Yes, indeed. Yes, Brandy, I second your opinion. There has been no vandalism. That is the safest place to walk, is through that tunnel. But I don't see why we can't beautify the tunnel under Pinecrest, and in addition put in a crosswalk, because a lot of kids are going to use a crosswalk. They're not gonna go down and take the tunnel no matter what happens. Everybody wants to do a direct line, so I think that's key. That's it.
If I can add to your point there, Jan.
Yeah.
So originally the paths for the Reston Association, I think they're meant to connect the clusters to the village centers. So they're actually not the most direct routes to, say, Southgate Community Center and also Dogwood Elementary. So you can sort of meander that way by a bicycle. It is possible, but where the police and the school post the crossing guard is at the Pinecrest Glade intersection for where the kids cross. And I stopped by there today to see, you know, how how that intersection is, and it is very busy. There are very many cars passing through there, and very many students, and that poor crossing guard was doing a great job. But I'm, just thinking a couple years in the future when people are trying to commute to and from the new metro station on foot, and hopefully more often to the Southgate Community Center. Dave can attest to the fact that our board holds our meetings there when we do in-person meetings. And so I think we're looking forward to continuing that at Southgate. And that is the intersection that we would be using. We wouldn't really use the underpass. We would use Pinecrest and Glade. And one of the challenges that I faced when trying to tackle this issue initially was communicating with VDOT and about crosswalks, and especially there's another intersection on the same Reston Association path of the Reston Association path and Glade, and it doesn't qualify for a crosswalk apparently. So what I think is challenging is that, they're asking for feedback from residents of like, oh, what do you need? What do you need? But I don't know what to ask for. And so I tried to do the same thing with this intersection. And, I asked for a crosswalk, and there is sort of like a partial crosswalk, and I kept getting reasons, why not this, or not this, not this, right? But I'm like, what can we do? And that's where VDOT is not helpful, is they won't, at least from my end. And I think it's not to fault any individual employee, but rather like the feedback process. It's just, I think, hindering any improvement of this intersection in particular, and maybe others like it, through the process that exists now, which is another reason why I'm excited that we're meeting people who can listen and actually make an impact in this area, because people have tried to talk to people, but it's not really getting through in an impactful way.
Thank you, Robin. I think Warren had a new hand. Warren, did you want to go?
Sorry, I guess I allowed my personal to get in front of business because I am concerned about safety. But the thing that I'm actually, with regards to the Pinecrest corridor, the thing that I am concerned about is maintenance and upkeep. So, it's already kind of, it's not easy, but it's possible to get a sense of where this group stands in terms of what our vision would be for that corridor. And, maybe Fairfax County or VDOT or whoever would put down the money to actually do something about it. But then the question is, what happens then, right? So in Reston, there are trails that are maintained by the Reston Association, but this is not Reston Association. This trail would connect to what is now under construction, or at least in the planning, as a trail on the north side of Fox Mill, and that would go all the way down to Pinecrest. So it would technically connect and would allow a corridor to go all the way up that way. So these are wonderful things that are happening, and we're contributing to possibly even more wonderful things happening. But then I think one of the things that we don't do well in this country is build infrastructure that is then maintained well. And my question would be, who would then take that on, right? Whose responsibility would it be to make sure that, there's safety maintained, that the trails are maintained, that there's someone coming through and making sure that it's still safe and clean and so forth?
I think those are excellent questions, Warren. Kim, I noticed you had a new hand. Did you want to follow up on that from Warren, or add something additional?
Yes, thank you. To follow up on that, you mentioned that there are multiple owners of that land. In the specific, is there any way to easily let the group know generally who the owners are in the parts that you're talking about as needing more maintenance? I'm just curious about that, the ownership of the land.
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of just do like a like a quick graphic on which parcels are owned by maintained or owned by which and send it to the group. Happy to do that. I know that my original image was more of just like a coloring exercise to make it a little bit more detailed.
Jose, can you give everyone just a quick synopsis of how maintenance works now, how it's all supposed to come together?
Yeah, so I guess just generally, ultimately, maintenance would be by the property owner, whoever owns it. I'm not 100% sure how VDOT maintains. I know VDOT maintains roads. I know it could be also a funny joke on what they maintain sometimes, but they typically do maintain some of the service roads. They do paving. Shamley can speak to that, the VDOT portion, but typically when it's like common area, RA does an excellent job maintaining their open space and their park space. The RCC also has indoor community space that they do programming in. Schools, take care of their items. Southgate does their programming at the Southgate Community Center. And Fairfax County Park Authority does do some maintenance on some of the parks that they have in the Reston area. So there's Barron Cameron, I think Reston North. I don't know all of them, and I think there's one off of South Lakes Drive. I think those are the three. I think Karen, I think I got them right? Okay. So typically they provide maintenance for those. Was there a particular question on maintenance that you had, Robin? Or if I didn't provide
No,
a good
just
response?
I think your insight on like how things work and the big picture of everything would really benefit this group and
Sure.
creating a recommendation.
Yeah, definitely.
So if I can add, I mean,
go ahead.
So on Pinecrest, I've known some of you have attended back in the day our Latino festivals and our Southgate Community Days. I've done on Pinecrest specifically. I was able to send like a request to VDOT to close down the street. Because at one point we just had so many participants that we had to close down Pinecrest so we could put, I don't know if you guys seen the Fairfax County showmobile. So we would put that showmobile on Pinecrest and it'd just be like a big block party. So I can tell you for sure that that VDOT, anything that deals with VDOT, with signs, I think with closing down the street, I mean, that's really everything I've been told since I was there. Maintenance is, I think, a couple of the, like, if there's trash or anything left on the sidewalks, that's all like a volunteer, like a Save the Street type of campaign, or like a, not volunteer, or Adopt a Street campaign. And I think at one time, the Reston Community Church adopted a street in that area, and I'm pretty sure it was Pinecrest. And I'm not sure if they do like that anymore. But I know for sure that anything I needed, like a sign or like I mentioned, crosswalks or speed bumps, that all had to be under some type of reporting to VDOT. So if that puts anything into perspective, I can tell you that that's my experience with trying.
Thank you, Richard.
And
Officer
if I might, we're working with a lot of what I feel have been very responsive different departments and organizations, whether it is RA, whether it is VDOT, FCDOT, whether it's to certain communities or neighborhoods. I feel everyone's been very responsive because of that ownership of the area. That being said, with that community partnership, and that goes for us too, because I know safety is being mentioned. So we're talking about safety and environment and maintenance and upkeep of the general area. So yes, VDOT, just like he just mentioned, putting in the request to them. I know they have a lot of infrastructure programs and stuff that does trump other projects when it comes to strict safety or something to do with traffic, like maybe a light is completely down. Their resources are going to be allocated to them first, but I have found them to be responsive. So we're working with all these different agencies, and then we need that community part too. And I think that that road adoption is an excellent idea. If we could go back to something like that, let me just second that. And I know there's some cleanups that are going to be sponsored in the area very soon. We need the community, we, meaning the police department, needs the community's communication, and that's where I come in. I say people are always welcome to contact me with questions or concerns or patterns or trends that they're seeing. And then we have our resources like patrol and like the NPU Neighborhood Patrol Unit, which is the bike team out on these trails to combat this crime and safety portion of it. But with maintenance and environment, let's continue to work with their agencies. I don't mind being a point of contact if it is something with the VDOT or if it is something with FCDOT. Or anything like that. I have a lot of community contacts, and I don't mind assisting with any of these issues you might see. But you might have heard the crime prevention through environmental design. It's just a theory, but it's the theory of we upkeep the area, we have that pride in the area, and it continues person to person, neighborhood to neighborhood, and filters out to the whole community about upkeeping the neighborhood environment maintenance and keeping crime down.
Thank you, Officer Harita. And I know we're getting close to 8 o'clock, so if there was any other comments, yeah, we can go through a little bit past 8. I do want to.
I have one small
go
thing
ahead.
to add. That is along the right of way. There's also some, it looks like unused communication lines and poles. I know that Robin had spent some time to try to find the owner of those, and I think we were unsuccessful. That's just something I want to at least make sure that we make note of, because those probably could be removed. They're not helpful, and looking like they do is kind of a sign of blight.
Larry and I have, as Robin knows, have tried to solve that mystery. They're stamped VEPCO, but Dominion is, I think, saying they are not there. So I will remind Larry that we still need an answer on that.
Thank you, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments from the group? Andy.
Again, these are going to be now starting to get more specific items that I'll need, Tom Beshedny's group or FCDOT to understand if this makes sense or not. But two things, specific things. The first one, on the southwest corner of Pinecrest and Glade, where on the west side is where the crosswalk is, across Glade. And then on the south side, it has a very accessible, curb, where accessible up into a sidewalk that goes for about 3 feet, then ends into mud and then into the bump out area, not connecting the RA path that comes through Pinecrest down into it, so that someone could actually make that connection. So if we're looking there, you see where the crosswalk, that path getting to that end of that crosswalk right there, it needs to be fixed. Someone needs to be able to walk from the end of that RA path to that crosswalk to get to the sidewalk on the north side of Glade without walking through this bump out, without walking through the mud and the debris to get there. So somehow that just seems like a specific thing that I want noted, that I think has to be some kind of output. Maybe it's a small piece of obviously a bigger picture here, but I wanted to state it. The other one is I'd love to see Tom Beshedny's and his team's view on, can we make that an all-way stop? Can we make Glade both directions stop, and as Pinecrest has to stop there, so that becomes a 3-way stop intersection as opposed to Glade is a through street and Pinecrest stops? Is that, maybe a traffic engineer would say, no way, because of X, Y, and Z, that will never work because of that. And I'd love to hear what X, Y, and Z are, and so I can nod my head and understand what Tom Beshedny would say there, because it just seems like maybe there's one down at Dogwood. There's a stop, where Dogwood, the parking lot for Dogwood is on Glade there and getting into Stratton Woods. So why not a 3-way stop here?
Andy, I think you bring up a really good point, and that is, here we are, a bunch of non-traffic engineers trying to solve a problem. It'd be really nice if we could state the problem, which is we need to be able to cross there, and have a traffic engineer help design it. I feel like we're left to guess the solution, and then when we guess wrong, we're told, nope, we can't do that. And we're not really being helped towards a solution. Is there a way to put this problem in front of somebody who has expertise in this area, rather than having a bunch of amateurs like us try to design the solution?
Can I type in a little bit here for a moment? So, I think that there are things that traffic engineers can do and design, but what would be helpful from you in the community would be to know what you desire out of that. In other words, where is it that you're missing the connection? So like what Andy laid out, we have an array path that ends here in this weird bump out. We don't like the congestion in the bump out. We need to have, access from point A to point B. We would like, the three-way stop or some way to make sure that vehicle traffic allows for pedestrians to cross safely. And so if you lay out some of those things that you would like to see, then it's a little easier to kind of look at what solutions might be best to come up with them. And I don't think anybody, I know from my end, I don't expect you to design an intersection. That's not what we're asking you to do. What we want you to do as a community is to tell us what it is that best would meet your needs. What is it that you need to do? If no one ever walks from point A to point B and we decide that that's a great place for a crosswalk, well, there's no point in putting one there, right? So this is where your needs need to come into it to develop the best solution. So I'm really hoping that, that's what we can cull out of this. And I know I've listened to Robin and several of you as we met, and I already have like some ideas that I've batted back and forth with VDOT. And I realize, a couple of constraints have come up on VDOT. And yes, they have kind of strict guidelines on where they can do certain things. And the traffic calming is something that Fairfax County Department of Transportation handles, but they won't do traffic calming on roads that are greater than 25 miles per hour. That's one of their criteria. And then it also must meet criteria for how many vehicles are going through the area and how many are exceeding the speed limit. So there's criteria for allowing some of those things. That doesn't mean that we can't change some stuff, but we can help with some of that information so that you can get some ideas of what is available to you, or what might be imagined there. But I really, some of the things that you guys have already brought up tonight have been really helpful in understanding what the needs of the community are.
Thank you, Shamli. And I noticed 2 hands were up. Well, actually, I see 3 now. Gary, Robin, and I think Richard, you had a virtual hand, but we can finish with Richard, and we can go from there and work on some of the next step. Go ahead, Gary.
I just wondered, am I?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So just briefly, I'm very excited by what you just said, and I'm wondering if that could also, that type of language could be applied to the conservation corridor, to the corridor. What is it called? The Pinecrest corridor? If the community decided, it said, we would like to have a conservation area, we would like to allow for the flow of animals, for the flow of people on 2 feet. We don't want to cut off the woods, which would be cut off if a road were planned through there. I mean, is that the kind of requirements that we would want to put together if that was the direction the community wanted to go? That kind of approach.
I think that could be part of like the larger vision, trying to prioritize this corridor or right of way as friendly for people on 2 feet, and then our friends on 4 feet. So that sounds like a wonderful friendly amendment to that type of vision. Go ahead, Robin, go ahead.
Oh, yes. I just thought of another question. This is mostly for Brandy Harita, I think. But it's about street parking and traffic law enforcement. So I'm not an expert, but many cars park too close to things that they're not supposed to in this area because of the way, I guess, the unregulated way that they're allowed to park. And that's just the rule, is if there's nothing saying that you're not allowed to park, you're allowed to park. That's what VDOT has said, which is part of the problem because there's cars previously on Green Range that parked too close to stop signs, but then VDOT did put in no parking signs where the intersection was, which has helped immensely. But the cars have continued to park, physically blocking the Reston Association path. And I did a little reading, and Fairfax City has codes that, you know, prohibit blocking, parking blocking, like intersections like this, pathways. But I didn't see anything in the general Fairfax County code, but I may have missed it. And so that's just kind of a repeat of the problem in the Pinecrest Glade intersection. So it's not just the cars that are parked in that little alcove, but you know, that's definitely the major issue. But it's also the cars parked on Glade where, you know, they're parked too close to the existing crosswalk that blocks visibility. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to traffic parking enforcement and what the officers are looking for. And then also, I mean, I love the idea of having more parking available for people, but when it impacts, you know, pedestrian and multi-use safety, I don't think anyone can afford to allow parking when it's really not safe to have it there.
Yes, so I'm not the expert in the parking laws. We do have a parking enforcement officer. Actually, he just recently left Reston, so we will be looking for a new one, but we do have support coming from Operations Support Bureau for parking enforcement officers in our area. And I'll be happy to send out our Fairfax County webpage, which has a lot of the different parking regulations. But so let's talk about the Pinecrest Glade area. Officers are looking for vehicles that are parked, like you said, too close to the stop signs where they shouldn't be, outside that VDOT marked signage area. VDOT has marked the no parking areas for us and for the community to provide easy guidelines for where they shouldn't park because they're either blocking line of sight, because the road is too narrow, because there's pedestrian safety issues. So that's easy enough. But then there is parking too close to signs, parking where they are blocking certain areas where they cannot, and other illegal parking like that. Now, specifically along the Pinecrest near the community center, we have been seen down there before during the events from Southgate because of the pedestrian traffic. There are certain areas that are blocked off because of line of sight issues. And yes, people have had to be issued citations because of the danger that their parking has posed to the pedestrians, the bicyclists, and the youth, especially during these events. You know, it's just creating a safety hazard. What can you do about it? You can certainly call the non-emergency line, which is 703-691-2131 for parking violations that you see, whether they're blocking driveways, whether they are up on the intersections and on a stop sign. You are welcome to call us. Things that we need to know, maybe the make, model of the car, the license plate, a description of it. You don't have, if someone's just left the car, you don't have to approach them yourself. We can do that, and we can try to find the owner or the driver of the vehicle as well. But that is certainly something you can call the police for, and to look for these patterns. If you see the patterns, please don't hesitate to reach out to me so that I can work with a parking enforcement officer if we do need more education and enforcement for that specific area. So your option is there for parking enforcement in the area. What else was I thinking? So yes, the officers are looking for those parking violations. We just need your community help as well, and assistance, and just keeping vigilant for those violations that you might see. Not all the violations are posted, such as parking close to a stop sign, too close to a stop sign, or too close to a curb, because the driver or the operator of the vehicle is supposed to innately know that when they have their driver's license, that there are some rules that don't have to be posted. And I believe VDOT says this, too, in conjunction with DMV, that, otherwise there would be signs completely everywhere prohibiting activities. So some of these, do take that little bit of education and maybe some enforcement for people to change their behaviors and realize that that's not acceptable. But like I said, that's an agreement between VDOT, DMV, that's on the driver to know, the rules of the road, essentially.
Thank you, Officer Harita. And Richard, do you want to get the last comment for the evening?
Sure, thanks for the honor. So this is just a follow-up for concerning Shamali's question, or more of our influence as a group, right? Like, how is it? Like, where do we like? Okay, so I can tell you like 3 or 4 things how to fix Pinecrest. Again, those are my ideas, right? Coming from the community. So what's the best way, I guess, to come up with these solutions? And I think David said the same thing, is it getting the right the right experts in this, or is it writing a letter to the supervisor's office, or is it all putting it together in a report from this group? Because like there's so many things that I've seen on Pinecrest, and all of you touched on all of them, but I guess what's the best way for us for these thoughts to come together and make the impact that it needs to change and fix that scenario in Pinecrest? I guess if that's, can you understand? Did you understand that at all? Sorry.
Yes, I sure did. And so, and I think all of you have touched on it. Several of you have asked for, a solution here or a solution there. And some of them happen, some of them don't happen, many of them don't happen. Things go on. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to bring this group of folks together, because I think that if you did come together with a set of goals or what you would like to see out of this location in this area, keeping it kind of tight to an area is helpful for the first bit, to show that, hey, these are the things that we would like to see happen. A safe passage from here to here. We have children who traverse this, or we have bicyclists or elderly folks, people with disabilities. What is it that the community needs and wants? The parking at the end is doesn't give it a good appearance. Can we change where that is? So then we can take all of that information from this group, and from our office, we can kind of push it forward to whether it's VDOT, FCDOT, and help bring those folks to the table with you to come up with the best solution for some of this. And sometimes, that's where we can help kind of coordinate some of those, the pieces that are more challenging, getting VDOT and FCDOT to work together on some things, getting RA to help out with some pieces of it where needed. So bringing people to the table. So that, you bring up a great point. What we, hope is that you can identify clearly the problems, because you are there all the time and live there and experience what's going on. And what would work best in terms of what you would like to see. So as we hear all of that and put it together, then we're able to go to VDOT and help with some advocacy. And we have all of you as a community, instead of one individual asking for one thing through VDOT. So you as a community are coming together. We in the supervisor's office are supporting that. We take it to VDOT, FCDOT, RA, whoever is needed. And then, come together with a plan, and then bring it back to you and see if whatever they come up with, because there's some things that maybe are not possible, either financially not possible or just physically not possible because of regulations and guidelines, that come from like a national level in terms of traffic safety. So then they can come back and say, this is what we can do. You can take a look at that and we can work from there. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what, that there is a path forward and there's a way that we can move this, and it's helpful to have a community come together with all the different stakeholders in the surrounding communities. And, so that's what we hope for, Richard.
Thank you, Shamli. And thank you, Richard, for that question. And I think, I know I mentioned it, but whatever the deliverable from this group, whether it's a written report, it can include, images, sometimes, images depict a story a lot better than any words that you can come up with, unless you're like a novelist. But I think that would be extremely helpful for our office to kind of understand, because we only got a really small piece of the pie with our, and Karen and Larry know, with our visit with Robin and David, and when we walked around the Pinecrest cluster, and that was just a small piece of that pie. But um, I'm happy that we did it. As we socially distance and wear our masks, but you guys are there 24/7, providing, Southgate's right there in home, as well as, Dogwood Elementary. So that was the kind of the spark of this group, and I'm happy that we all got to meet today. I think that we have some wonderful next steps, and I'm looking to see whatever this group can provide. I think let's see what, it's not like throwing spaghetti at the wall. I think you guys have already addressed these concerns and already know these concerns. I've heard VDOT, I've heard maintenance and upkeep, and it's wonderful that it's a common theme, a common thread with this group. So I do want to wrap up this call. I think there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of next steps on our part. So I kind of want to leave it up to the group, and feel free to share how this group kind of meets, whether it's, monthly, if you feel like you guys need to meet every 2 weeks. We're here to support, me and Shamli and Officer Harita, and even the supervisors. Really, he had to jump out, but he really loved some of the discussion going on. So please do share any ideas with us. I'm looking forward to the next meeting. Any additional questions before we wrap up tonight?
I want to get a specific action item on our
Yes,
plates.
yes.
I think we all share an email address that we could use to provide that list of what it is we're looking for, because I love that idea that, we should tell you what we're trying to do. Like, we want to be able to cross this street. We want to be able to, the cars are causing a blight, whatever the issues are. We could compile that list. That could be an action, right? That this group
Yeah.
could take.
Definitely. I think that's a first great step into this. Um, I'm happy to, I know we're in the age of email, and I know we're not in person, but if it's okay with the group, I'm happy to, share your email addresses with folks. But if, and I understand that there's always I want to respect that. But if you guys are okay with sharing your email addresses with each other, I think that's the best way to cross-pollinate ideas. Um, but if there's another way, we can do some type of listserv, to make sure that everyone gets the same communication at the same time, just in case someone doesn't hit reply all. I really leave that up to you guys.
Okay, should we just start a Google Doc and work from that, or a poll, to start getting favorite ideas? Or should we just write down our ideas as individuals and come together next meeting and make a document? That might actually, kind of like that last idea, a little better.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, things get a little
I
hectic.
like that too.
Yeah. And David, maybe we can, have you put up like a Word doc on the screen and try to capture some of
Yeah.
these things. And I'm happy to help you through that process at the next meeting.
I think Robin's idea is the most practical. An action item goes to all of us to come up with something. The next time we meet, we can compile that. That way we don't have to worry about sharing emails or coming up with some online tools. If anybody can think of that by the time we have another meeting, that would be great too.
Could
Yeah,
we do
need to
something?
have a
Yeah.
roster of who, our emails. That would help a lot. I personally would in favor of once a month. I'm at work right now. I I'm lucky it's slow, but it's hard for me to attend these meetings. So once a month, I probably can do. Every 2 weeks, that's pushing it for me. Just my 2 cents.
Understood. So I saw multiple seconds and votes, and we
Can
can
we
keep it at once a month, including Richard. And
can we all, for this first set of actions, can we all send our list of ideas to you, Jose, and then
yeah,
between you and David before our next meeting is a Word document, and it doesn't have to be filtered at all. It can just be, okay, there's Andy
copy
sent
paste.
3, Robin sent 4, and we just list them all, and then we could kind of use that as one agenda item, is to just sort of walk through that list before the next meeting. Could that be something we could take as an action item and send it to you, so there's
Yeah.
not worry about the email issue that you're
Yeah,
describing?
yeah.
That's
Feel free to
great.
send it to me. You can also send it to Shamley, but I'm happy to get all of them
Right.
and work with David. And we can treat the next meeting as a working session with some of these comments to kind of fine tune them. And again, we don't have to have a unanimous agreement on some of these. We can come to consensus on some of these items. So,
Great.
any other items before we break for the evening? Well,
Thanks a lot, Jose. That was awesome.
yeah, I'll take the silence as
Yeah.
you guys have a lot of stuff going on in your minds as ideas. So
All hungry.
Thank you, Jose.
thank you guys again for this first meeting, and I look forward to meeting with the next one, and hopefully we can eventually meet in person as well. I think I really love this group already.
Thank you, Jose. You're wonderful.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for putting this together.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Nice to see you guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. I'll
Thank
meet-
you.